Fantastically Fit. Today we're going to talk about a macro. I know many of you heard about a macro. What is it and why do we need to know about it? A macro is a carbohydrate, a protein, or a fat. In most diets, or a lot of diets, would rely on how many macros you have. But as soon as I say the word macro, so many people are like still saying, what is that? I can hear it. I can hear it even though they're not saying it. I feel it. They're not knowing what a macro is. But it is one of the most important things in getting to your goal, whatever that goal may be. To get to a goal, you have to have a plan. And a lot of people like to use a plan. Right now, the big trend is the intermittent fasting, which means you just skip a meal. When you skip a meal, of course, you're just knocking out a bunch of macros and calories. So a lot of people will get results with leaving a meal out. And there's something to be said for giving the digestive system a rest. However, if you have low blood sugar or high cortisol, skipping a meal in the morning may not be the best time to skip, because when you eat, your cortisol will lower, and that's a good thing, especially if you're a chronically stressed person or you've been fasting too long. So if you're a chronically stressed person and you have blood sugar issues, intermittent fasting is not for you. But quality foods is important when you're doing your smaller meals throughout the day. Also, when you're a bodybuilder or a fitness athlete and you're required to eat quite a bit more protein maybe than the average person, your protein needs are higher. You need probably up to 0.8 grams of a protein per pound of body weight, as opposed to 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, which is about half that amount. Then you're going to need to diversify that protein, because you're not going to put all that protein in 3 meals. So for me, if I need, and I'm requiring 108 grams of protein a day to maintain my muscle mass and to be able to continue to weight train the way that I do and to continue to build the way that I want to build, which is happening, then I need to divide that up in probably at least 4 meals a day. So intermittent fasting, my fast is pretty much when I'm sleeping and I wake up and I'm hungry. Now, there are times when I'm not lifting as much and I don't feel the need, or I don't require quite as much protein. I can back that down and maybe back it down to 3 meals and a couple of snacks. So everybody's a little bit different depending on their protein requirements, because most people, if they need 100 grams of protein, they can't do that in 2 meals or even 3 meals in a day, because you just don't have enough stomach acid to digest that much protein at the same time. And too much protein can be a problem at the same time, because it can actually have a toxicity effect, which maybe we'll talk about in a future video. So we need to understand that fat has twice as many calories as a gram of protein and carbohydrate, because when you go to the store and you buy your beef and it says 80% lean, you need to know that it's not 20% of your calories coming from fat, it's more than 40. Why? Because 20% in weight is twice as many calories. So basically, remember, the protein is 4 calories per gram, fat is 9 calories per gram. So the fat in the 80% lean meat is about 40% of your calories coming from fat. So if you're trying to stay under a 30% of your calories coming from fat diet, you're already over the mark, and you did it all with animal fat. And we need good fat. So we have to make room to put that good fat in our diet. Our good fat is coming from plant oils. It's also coming from fish oils. Why do I pick fish oils? Because fish oil is already in the right form in order for us to use it as an anti-inflammatory and to help our brain and nervous system. Fish oils are best taken from the ocean. Why? Because it is nice and cold there, and they build these essential fatty acids up as a way to not freeze to death. We eat these essential fatty acids, and it's an anti-inflammatory to us. And again, it helps the DHA part of the fish oil, helps the brain and nervous system, and the EPA is the anti-inflammatory. So when you hear the word omega-3, there's 2 parts that are important to you. EPA, anti-inflammatory, and DHA, brain and nervous system. So you do need them both. So there's a lot of advertisements for the medical need for EPA, which is an anti-inflammatory, which tends to help with heart disease. But I want to tell you, or it's really an anti-inflammatory, and the DHA is also very important. Where you get your fish oils does matter. So if you're getting your fish oils from over the counter and they've been sitting there for a while, it's possible that they're rancid, that they contain mercury, that they were grown in, that the fish that was used was grown in someone's fish tank, and they do not have the same essential fatty acid profile, and they're not going to be as good. So just sharing with you, they need to be from the ocean. We do need these fats. Can you get these omega-3s from plants? You can. but you're going to get much smaller amounts, and it actually has to go through some processes to become the form that we need to make it an anti-inflammatory for us. So I would probably have to eat 25 times as much flaxseed oil as I would fish oil to get the same benefit. So you choose. Not that flax oil is bad. Flax oil is good. Flax is good. It is a form of fiber. It's just a lot easier for me to take some fish oil or eat some fish. And my fish should also be cold water, right? You don't want fish that's been in someone's fish tank and fed grains or antibiotics or meds. I'm not saying that there aren't some clean fish tanks, but I just know that the essential fatty acid profile from the ocean is better than a fish tank. Carbs are important also. Again, we need carbs for glycogen. It's the most immediate source of energy. So again, another reason I'm not a fan of the keto diet. If somebody wanted to follow the keto diet for a couple of days, to kind of get some water weight off, I think that's fine. We do need carbohydrates. It's the type of carbohydrates that people eat that tend to be the biggest problem. When you're eating processed carbohydrates from breads or cereals or anything that crinkles when you open it, like a package, those are usually processed carbohydrates, or they're made from these grains that contain pesticides, and they've been processed so much that they're basically nutrient deficient. They don't have any nutrition, plus they contain toxins. They're an irritant to our digestive tract. They can cause inflammation in our digestive tract. So we want to be careful of the kind of carbs you want. So you want clean carbs, usually brown rice or clean oats, or a good source. You can have sweet potatoes are a great source for some people. So I'm just letting you know that there are better carbs and we should have them. I'm not a fan of carb-free, but we do need to watch our carb intake. I'm a big fan of finding out where you're at. How do you know where you're at? You get a scale. You get a scale that says, it tells you how much body water you are, how much lean tissue you are, and how much fat you are. And you want your macros to support the good tissues, which means you do need some proteins and some good fats, right? And carbohydrates. But you don't want much of any one of those three things that is going to contribute to our body composition becoming less than what it should be. So we want to be a more healthier us, not a less healthy. So when you get your measurements done to find out how much lean tissue you are and how much fat you are and how much water you are, adjustments can be made to your macros to get a better body composition. So if you're high fat, low muscle, then you probably want to make sure that you're eating adequate protein, and that's going to depend on your activity level and how much muscle you already have. If you don't have a lot of muscle, you don't need to eat more protein than your body needs, but you might want to eat a little extra for your goals. So if you're 135 pounds and you're 30% fat, then you don't need 100 grams of protein, but you might want to eat 40 to sustain your muscle and maybe try to put on a little more. To put on muscle, you have to do resistance training. There's no way out of it. You can't take a pill and make muscle. It just doesn't work. You have to do resistance training. Resistance training also increases your bone mass. So you have to have all your macros to increase bone mass. Our bones do consist of a lot of collagen and minerals. Minerals are coming from our plants. Our collagen is made from proteins. So if we're not getting all the amino acids in a great enough amount, we can't make more bone. And that bone grows with the right ingredients and resistance, because your body is always adapting to stress. So we want to adapt to stress in a good way and replace things with good nutrition and make those things get bigger and grow better. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to get big. I don't want to get big. Oh, I gained a pound on the scale. If you're doing resistance training and you have a measurement coming from a scale that tells you about what your body composition is and muscle and water and fat, you know where that weight's going. So if you lose 2 pounds of fat or a pound of fat, a pound of water, and gain 3 pounds of protein in some form or fashion, be it in the muscle or the bone, who cares if you gained a pound? It doesn't matter. You're getting healthier and you're looking better and you're probably thinner. Your waistline has probably come down. So it's no longer about weight. Weight is a measurement. It factors into your body composition. It tells us you got this weight and where is it? Where is it all going? So weight is a number that can factor into the body composition. It is a unit of measurement, and in addition to the scale that breaks us down into how much we have, will tell us how we need to adjust those macros. So I'm going to give you an example. So I get on the scale, it says 135 pounds. If it says 135 pounds, that doesn't tell me how much protein I need. If I get on another scale and it says my lean tissue cumulative is 95 pounds, I need 100 grams of protein a day. That's what I need to sustain me. If I started eating less than what I need, I will break down my muscle inevitably, and I will lose muscle or I will lose bone. So I need to eat enough grams to at least sustain the lean tissue I have. If I want to gain more lean tissue, I have to take it through resistance and eat a little bit more protein than what that scale says. So first off, you need to get a scale. You need to know what your body composition is. Then you need to see what your metabolic rate is. It gives you a general idea of what your metabolic rate is. It tells me how many calories I can have. Then I'm going to get me an app, or I'm going to get me a notebook, and I'm going to start documenting how many calories I consume. And then I'm going to take what I'm eating and break it down into 3 categories: fat, protein, and carbohydrates. So if I were writing on it on a notepad or a piece of paper, I would have 3 columns: grams of fat, grams of protein, and grams of calories. And I would record that as I ate throughout the day. And then I would multiply the fat times 9, because remember, if I'm documenting grams, then I'm going to take my grams, I'm going to multiply the grams times 9, and that's going to tell me how many fat calories I have. For protein and carbs, I'm going to document the grams that I eat, I'm going to add it up, and then I'm going to multiply by 4, and that's going to give me the number of calories I eat. I'm going to add up all the calories, and I'm going to see what it equals to at the end of the day. If it's 1,500 calories, and I'm keeping my normal activity level that I always keep, then I broke even, because that's my metabolic rate. If I had 1,300 calories, then I was 200 calories less. I'm going to lose weight in some form or fashion. If I eat 200 calories more, I'm going to gain weight. So it depends on where you're putting your calories, and what you're doing with those calories is the type of weight you're gaining or the type of weight you're losing. So your macros are important. Now, you can't eat so many carbohydrates that it converts over to fat. So we need to talk about that. So, well, I'm on this high carb, low fat diet, which, by the way, I don't really hear of that anymore. Most people don't do that, but you need to know, if you eat more carbohydrates than you need, you have filled your glycogen stores with your carbohydrates in that meal, and I've got extra. And that extra has to go somewhere. And your body will convert that over to fat, which then will make it much harder to burn. So what I like to do is eat just enough carbohydrates. I want to fill up my glycogen stores so I have a really nice weight training workout. Maybe I'll even eat a little less than what I think on the carbohydrates. So I don't want to go over, I don't want to spill over, I don't want to reburn fat that I've already gotten off my body. So I want to make sure that I don't eat too many carbohydrates. I may fluctuate it a bit from day to day, 200 calories low on one day, 200 calories higher on the other day. And if I'm going to do cardio, because I'm going to burn off a lot of calories in the first 10 minutes, I can afford to have a little bit more calories that day. I like to pre-burn my calories, especially if I'm going out on a date or if I'm going to a party and I know I'm going to probably have a couple hundred calories, or I'm going to eat something I have no idea how many calories it has in it. Then I want to pre-burn my calories so that I'm nice and hungry. My muscles are really hungry. So when I eat those carbohydrates, they go into the glycogen stores in your muscles and they don't spill over into your fat stores. So I hope this helps. I know it's kind of lengthy, but I wanted to give you an idea what a macro was and how to treat it. In the future, we'll do more videos on weight loss and how to get the body that you want. Have a blessed day.